Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
Juneteenth has been known by many names.
A national holiday.
The first that our nation will celebrate all together.
For black folks, it's been a holiday, but we'll share the holiday with everybody else. No problem.
Tropical threat in the Gulf of Mexico.
This weather event will be focused on rain.
Put a stop to the tide of voter suppression.
The federal government taking over elections.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome in. It is News and Views for a Friday, getting ready for the weekend. And down at Morehead City, not a lot of action today. Just 10 boats are sitting out this fifth day of the Big Rock Blue Marlin Tournament, this according to WITN. Fishermen are being greeted with southwest winds 5 to 10 knots and seas of 2 to 3 feet. And right now, looking at the leaderboard, the Natural is in first place with a 521.6-pound marlin, outnumbered at 512, widespread at 479, following Seas at 448, Anticipation 446, and Danson Outlaw at 419. Record number of boats this year. The winner could walk away with $1.6 million in total prize money. WITN is reporting federal investigators are expecting later this afternoon at the site of a deadly crop duster crash outside of Kinston. The FAA says it was an Air Tractor AT-204B single-engine turboprop. It was a crop duster, is basically what it was. The pilot of the plane was the only person on board, and apparently there was an individual spectator at a drag race down south of Kinston, a drag strip on Highway 11 South. He was taking video at the time, and you can actually see the aircraft going down. Apparently it caught on fire, crashed, and the pilot was killed. The pilot was the only person in the plane at the time. His name has not yet been released. Authorities say 3 people are dead after a tubing accident on the Dan River up near Eden, North Carolina. There's a dam up there related to the Duke Energy plant, and a group of 5 went over the dam in inflatable tubes. Not a good idea, and 3 died. 2 are remaining missing, and a couple of others ended up in the hospital. So I guess at total there was 7 involved in this issue that took place Thursday night. Again, no names have yet been released. PJ Media, along with a number of other media outlets, are reporting that Catholic bishops who have come together for an assembly had gotten together, and they were talking about, okay, what do we do with the fact that we have a number of Catholic politicians, especially in the United States, but frankly all over the world, and this was the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. They were most concerned with the likes of, frankly, they didn't mention them by name, but Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and others, Catholics who claim to be good Catholics. And yet, when it comes to following Catholicism, the Catholic doctrine, they're nowhere near following it as they should. So earlier today, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops overwhelmingly drafted a statement on the sacrament of the Eucharist, commonly known as communion, the Lord's Supper, as Protestants would call it, clarifying whether or not politicians who advocate for the killing of unborn babies, the erosion of religious freedom, and the redefinition of marriage and sexuality, people like Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, whether or not they should be disciplined by not receiving the Lord's Supper, the Eucharist, which Roman Catholics believe becomes the literal body and blood of Christ. I mean, this is, in the Catholic Church, this is a very important part of their belief system and their practice. And up to now, most of the time, Joe Biden just waltzes in and, go ahead and participate in the Lord's Supper along with Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi A few years ago, she said, well, she started talking about all the kids she has and the fact that she's now a grandmother. And she says, frankly, I think I know more about having children than the Pope does. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops voted 73% in favor and 24% opposed to withhold the Lord's Supper from the likes of Joe Biden, essentially from the likes of Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and other politicians who basically shoot the bird at Catholic doctrine. While the text of the proposal remains unwritten, a proposed outline claimed it would include the theological foundation for the Church's discipline concerning the reception of Holy Communion. The proposal, once drafted, will require 2/3 majority of the vote to become binding. Well, 3/4 voted for this. The bishops will likely vote on the statement in November. Now, even if they approve the statement, only a local bishop or the Pope can determine who can and cannot receive the sacrament of communion. So I imagine there might be a lot of fudging on this. But again, remember, a couple of years back, a priest down in Florence, South Carolina, Joe Biden was down there during the campaign, and he went there to the Mass, and this priest just said, nope, not for you, Joe. The New York Times reporter, Elizabeth Diaz, suggested that the motivations behind the vote are more political than religious. So far, Republicans are not having much luck demonizing Biden. They don't need to demonize Biden. Biden he's his own worst enemy. So she goes on to say, so they're testing abortion as a potential issue on which to criticize him, as they did with transgender athletes in youth sports and critical race theory, said Mike Mikas, a political consultant in Pittsburgh who advises Democratic campaigns. See, liberals such as this Mike Mikas and this New York Times reporter Elizabeth Diaz, these liberals can't possibly imagine that people actually have deep-seated moral values, that they actually would submit themselves to a higher moral authority, that they actually believe God's word is literal and they want to follow it. They actually want to follow it. So what do liberals say? Oh, this isn't religious conviction. This is merely moral opportunism. They go on to say the point is to mobilize Republicans. It's all a play to the base. Yet Bishop Rhodes, Kevin Rhodes, who leads the U.S. Conference of Catholic bishops, I should say. And he heads up the Committee on Doctrine, which put forward this resolution, said in a news conference that the upcoming midterm and presidential elections never entered my mind or the committee's minds. Indeed, the central issue at stake is not the political stance of Joe Biden, but the integrity of the Roman Catholic Church. The Church has made its positions on abortion, marriage, and gender clear, rooting these doctrines in the Bible and church tradition. The widespread presence of self-proclaimed Catholics who not only disagree with these positions, but actively aim to force payments for abortion, celebrations of same-sex marriage, and the performance of transgender surgery on Americans who object is devastating scandal for the church. When Biden took the oath of office in January of 2021, the head of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops issued a historic rebuke of the president. Biden has fought to resurrect an Obama HHS rule that would force Roman Catholic doctors to perform transgender surgery in violation of Catholic teaching. He vigorously supports the Equality Act, which explicitly guts the 1993 Religious Freedom Restoration Act, a bill which Biden himself voted for back when he was in the Senate. Biden has also excluded the Hyde Amendment from his federal budget proposal, fighting to force pro-life taxpayers to unwittingly fund abortion. Earlier this week, the Vatican nixed a plan for Biden to receive communion from Pope Francis. The Conference of the Bishops should clarify the limits of the communion, not just because of Joe Biden's radical anti-religious freedom stances, but because the left in general is becoming extremely hostile to the unborn and to those who dissent from LGBT orthodoxy. If Catholicism does not involve adherence to the Catholic doctrine on these fundamental issues, or at the very least a respect for Catholics' religious freedom to live by them, what kind of flagrant disregard for the church can nominal Catholics not get away with? I will say this. Now, I do not agree with all Catholic doctrine. I'm a Protestant. I'm a Reformed Christian. I would fall under the category of Calvinism if you want to put me in a certain category. But I've got to say, the Catholic Church is leading the way on these moral issues, and God bless them for it. I mean, for this vote, 73% and 24% opposed. I don't know that the Southern Baptist Church would have that high of a vote. In all honesty, I really don't. Just this week, they had an opportunity to choose between. They had actually 4 people running for the president of the Southern Baptist Conference, and it came down to one man that was very conservative, another man that appears to me to be sort of middle of the road, a little bit more progressive, and they voted for the progressive. So I'm not even sure. And if you're Southern Baptist, I know it varies from congregation to congregation, but and a lot of evangelical denominations that are supposed to be very conservative and are supposed to be adhering to the Bible, they're just more and more just sort of winking and nodding to these issues that have biblical importance that are black and white. They're not gray. And yet a lot of these progressives that have entered into the evangelical church are making them gray, are turning them gray. So you know what, my hat's off to the Catholic Church and these bishops that have gone against what the politically correct would say is intolerable. And again, you've got this Mike Mikas and Elizabeth Diaz from the New York Times who immediately say, this is just about politics, Again, progressives and liberals cannot believe that it's possible. How can you possibly believe and embrace this stuff? They did. God bless them. And we're going to take an early time out. When we come back, we're looking forward to talking to John Hood. That's the same John Hood who writes for the Carolina Journal. You see him on lots of talk shows, conservative commentary. Well, he's coming out doing something a little different now in addition to his other duties. We'll talk to him about it when we get back. Stay with us.
What do you call a laughing motorcycle? A Yamaha. A Yamaha.
Who is the greatest babysitter mentioned in the Bible? David. He rocked Goliath to sleep.
At what time of day was Adam created? A little before Eve.
Get out of here. What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
Why do the chicken coops only have 2 doors? Because if they had 4, it would be chicken sedans.
Oh my gosh. What do you call a laughing motorcycle? A Yamaha. A Yamaha.
Who is the greatest babysitter mentioned in the Bible? David. He rocked Goliath to sleep.
At what time of day was Adam created? A little before Eve.
Get out of here. What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
And we're on location at one of my favorite places in the whole planet because this is some of the best food you're ever going to eat in your life. We are at Nino's on Red Banks Road in Greenville. It's one of my hangouts. It's one of the places that I love. I got my friend Pietro Pasalacqua. How'd I do?
You did great.
Let's talk about the food. What makes this place? I know it's special Italian from authentic Italians, but tell us why it's so special.
Because everything we do, it's really what we came up on the menu from what we did at home, from my grandparents, my parents. So it's exactly what we eat at home, and that's the way we cook. That's why it's special.
And the atmosphere in this place is special also. From the bar to the two dining areas. You got two different dining areas, and now the weather's nice, so there's going to be a lot of folks that want to eat outside.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. Looking forward to a good-looking weekend. Tomorrow, lots of sunshine. Just a very, very slight chance of rain on Sunday. Highs tomorrow in the 90s, highs Sunday in the 80s. Lows both nights this weekend in the 70s. Looks like it's going to be a nice weekend to get out and enjoy. Our listeners are no doubt familiar with John Hood and his conservative commentary via newspaper columns, his appearance on many different talk shows, numerous articles in the Carolina Journal. But now John is venturing out into new territory with a just-released novel entitled Mountain Folk. John joins me now to talk about his new book. John, welcome in. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Now, this is not your first book, but this is a novel. I would think it's significantly, for your talents. You deal with politics all the time. To have a paradigm shift like this into a little bit of fiction is an interesting turn of events in your life.
Well, I suppose that some of my critics would say that my 7 previous books, which were nonfiction, were really fiction. But so, yes, I have written a number of books about economic history, political history in America and North Carolina. This novel is set during the American Revolution, largely in North Carolina. And it's not just a historical novel, it's a historical fantasy novel. So it has real-life characters like Daniel Boone and George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and so forth. But it also has magical characters, elves and other kinds of fairies, dwarves, who in the world of mountain folk, they live in America in sort of remote locations. It sounds like a bizarre midlife crisis moment, I admit. But the truth is that while it is a tale of adventure and frontier life and America and its founding, it does have some important themes in it. It's fun, but it's fun with a purpose. We all know that there is a great deal of revisionism going on about American history.
Oh, yeah.
Quite literally, heroes are being yanked down. Figuratively, lots of heroes are being toppled off their pedestals, and sometimes literally, statues and other works of art. My view is not that we should have an uncritical look at our past and indeed at American heroes. It's important to know that our heroes did heroic things, but they weren't perfect. That just about everybody who ever wielded power in our country who meant well sometimes made mistakes or got tempted to abuse power. That's real, and we should learn that. But my view about American heroes is that we need more of them. We don't need fewer of them.
Right.
We don't need to be yanking people out of the pantheon of America. We need to be adding some. So some of my characters, real life characters, are people that I do think that Americans should know more about. Nanyehi is one of the heroes of my novel. She's a Cherokee woman. In her youth, she was actually a war woman. She fought in battle, led her people to victory in a battle over a neighboring tribe, but later in life became a peacemaker during the American Revolution and was torn between some of her people who allied with the British and attacked the Carolina frontier, and others who didn't want to participate in that war because they thought it would end badly for the Cherokee, which it did. So I think that Nanyehi is one of many people that my readers will meet that they may not know very much about. And as we go through subsequent novels, this is actually the first of a series of novels I'm writing along this theme. My goal is to absolutely hold up our traditional American folk heroes for a new generation to enjoy, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, lots of other people like that, but also to learn some new, or maybe not so new, but some not well enough understood American heroes who fought for America's principles, even though they were slaves, even though they were Indians who had been excluded from rights, even though they were women who were insisting on additional rights. They lacked a lot of formal power sometimes, but were still heroic actors in the story. And that's what I try to explain. Again, this is mostly an adventure book. I mean, there are escapes and knife fights and sword fights. And Daniel Boone fights a giant fire-breathing salamander, which I'm sure you never expected me to say that sentence on your show, Tom. But
that's different.
But it's all in fun in a sense, but not really. There really are some important themes about American history and heritage and heroes here.
Well, it's and by the way, for our listeners, if you want to know more, you can go to the website mountainfolkbook.com. And John has done a series of 10 short video clips. They're probably 3 to 5 minutes each, where he talks about different aspects of the book, and it is really very, very interesting. But one of the things that was sort of a question mark that I had is, it almost appears like these are a number of short stories, but I'm assuming that there's got to be, if it's a novel, there's a theme throughout all the chapters. How exactly have you tied it together?
Yeah, there is a theme. This is a novel. I mean, the discrete episodes or discrete adventures that my characters have, sometimes a chapter might feel like a short story, but it's all part of a longer narrative. And It starts with Daniel Boone and his family moving to North Carolina in the 1750s, takes you through the French and Indian War, the American Revolution, and the founding of the country, and ends in the early 1790s. So it spans a fair amount of time. You see somebody like Daniel Boone start out as a young man and end up as a grizzled veteran. But there is a theme here, and I hope that people both enjoy it and appreciate the celebration of America. We can expand what we mean by American heroes and American heritage without tearing things down and pretending that America was founded on a lie or founded on an evil principle, which is simply not the case.
Now, when I went through these series of videos, it appears that there's a little bit of nexus to the folks here in eastern North Carolina. I know you did one of the videos, I guess 2 of the videos over in Bath and one down at the Tyrone Palace down in New Bern. Is there a connection to eastern North Carolina?
There are some connections. Eastern North Carolina is featured even more prominently in the second novel in the series, which will come out next year. But there are references, for example, to the construction of what was called Tryon Palace and how angry that made the frontier people and led some of them to move over the mountains into what is now Tennessee and Kentucky. A lot of the action happens in the mountain area because, of course, the name of the book is Mountain Folk. And what's striking about that period of our history is a lot of those frontier people, they weren't all that crazy about the revolution because the revolution was being led by the eastern elites that they were fleeing. And so they were tempted by British agents. They were tempted not to participate. Now, I resolved that conflict in the book, but it's an interesting part of our history we don't know enough about. American Revolution was a civil war as much as it was an attempt
a lot
at
of people
invasion.
aligned themselves with the king.
They did,
Yeah.
and many Indian tribes did too, which is a big part of the book, is the relationship between the Cherokees and the frontier people.
You know, when I heard you describe your book, and you and I have been texting back and forth and getting you on the air, but also looking at these videos, J.R.R. Tolkien came to mind. Are you a fan of Tolkien's?
Absolutely, and that's exactly the right image. Just imagine if the American Revolution were an epic fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to do here. That's a pretty big, sweeping story, even though there's some individuals that we focus a lot on. And that's what I got from Tolkien and other writers like that, Lord of the Rings and other writers, is you can have a big, sweeping, gigantic story that means a great deal, but you've also got to focus on the conflicts and the personalities of key characters that the reader identifies with. I have some human characters like that, and I have some fairy characters like that.
You know, what's interesting, though, Tolkien, all he had to do, and I'm not trying to make it sound simple. I mean, I love his work, and I've read his work, and, you know, he's a genius. But it was, you know, he basically just had to dig down into his imagination, and I'm sure his life experiences played into, you know, his final products, his final books. But I would think you not only had to come up with your imagination, but you also had to do your history work. You had to go check your facts because I'm assuming you're trying to, on the historical part, you're trying to be fairly accurate there, are you not?
Oh, yes. I mean, this was probably the most deeply researched book I've ever written, even though it is a fiction book. It's got a lot of history in it. I made sure that a lot of the historical facts and times, I don't put characters together unless they could have actually in real life been in the same place at the same time. Spent a lot of time on studying battles and how they unfold. I even went to some of the locations and walked them and had to revise the chapter because I realized I had, for example, some people running along a field, and actually it's a steep slope and they couldn't have run up it. So I had to change the action. So I try very hard to make this even to the details of which seeds the Cherokee women crushed to dye their baskets. Just little details like that make it feel more like real life, even though you're also dealing with fairy creatures and a giant sea monster.
We're talking to John Hood about his new book, Mountain Folk. You can find out more about it at mountainfolkbook.com. How long did it take you to write this, John? I mean, if you include the research and everything else, this is a multi-year project, certainly, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't that way because some of this history I had already known a lot about. It took me about 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
To do.
I'm impressed.
Well, something you probably have already figured out about me, Thomas, I don't really take time off very well, so this was something I did primarily on the weekends. Some people would watch TV or play outside, and I was sitting in a computer or in a library delving into old memoirs and history books, folklore guides, and developing the world of mountain folk. I enjoyed it. I mean, I hope readers do too, but frankly, I enjoyed the process myself.
Have you gotten feedback? I mean, as it's gone out there, obviously this is your first venture into a novel. What kind of response have you heard so far?
Well, people are enjoying it. They're often surprised. They didn't quite know what to expect. They particularly North Carolina readers like the fact that a fair amount of it happens in North Carolina, particularly in the early part of the novel, so they recognize places. The main fairy nation that is part of this story lives on top of Pilot Mountain up near north of Winston-Salem. And so I have some things in there that North Carolinians will particularly enjoy, but my readers around the country that I've been hearing from, what they enjoy most is this notion that it's historically accurate plus monsters.
Well, you know, it sort of reminds me not only J.R. Tolkien, but it sort of reminds me of Rush Limbaugh. You know, he had those Rush Revere books come out. Now, they were aimed at children, teaching them history while they're having a good time, and it sounds like this might be sort of an adult version of that.
That's right. This is sort of a teen and adult version of that idea. But yes, someone else mentioned the Limbaugh books to me today. I hadn't really thought about that. I read some of those back in the day, but that is the category here. It's historical with some flights of fancy mixed together.
Well, I haven't read it yet, but I am going to. I'm going to get it. I'm going to read it. And now the next one you're working on right now, I guess, is Mountain.
The next one is
Forest Folk.
The next one is called Forest Folk.
Okay.
Yeah, so each of the novels in the series will be a different. Mountain Folk is the first novel. Forest Folk is the second novel. That occurs mostly during the early 1800s through the War of 1812 and into the 1830s. The third book will be called Water Folk, and will involve the Alamo and the Mexican War and adventure on the high seas. So we'll see how many of them my late 50s stamina will allow me to generate. But so far, I've really enjoyed it. I was telling an audience last night, one of the fun things about this is that the characters sometimes didn't do what I wanted them to do. When you create characters and you have a basic outline, you expect this action to go a certain way, sometimes the logic of the characters you've developed and the situations you've already written kind of lead you to a different outcome. I had some events that I thought I was going to write into Mountain Folk that didn't end up happening because, you know, not to be too silly about it, but basically my characters refused to follow my direction. It just didn't make sense for them to do what I had thought they were going to do. The logic of the story and of their personalities led me to a different ending that I didn't expect. So even I was waiting, for the next chapter. What's going to happen next?
Well, that's an interesting point. I've never begun to sit down at my computer and begin to write a book. I mean, I do a lot of writing, but I've never in book form. But I've always thought, how would you go about something like this? As you approach this, did you have an opening and a middle and a conclusion already in your mind, or was it as you went through? Okay, what's going to happen next?
Well, I had an outline of the entire book, chapter by chapter. And that's the way I've written all of my books. Of course, the previous nonfiction books, you sort of have to do it that way.
Right.
What I found is that I more or less stuck to my outline, but there were certain details and certain developments that I had expected to include later in the book that by the time I got there, writing everything out the way I was, I realized that's not the right answer. That's not the right outcome. That's not what that character would do. So some of the specifics changed, but the general outline I followed. I find that I have to do that so that I have some sense of where I'm going.
There you go. Interesting stuff, John. Thanks for coming on and sharing with us about this, and we encourage our folks to go to the website. It's mountainfolkbook.com. And I like your website because not only can you order the book there, but it really does give you a lot of insights into what the book is about. As I mentioned, there's 10 little video clips of John on location at these different areas where the different chapters take place. He's up at Pilot Mountain, and one of the segments, he's down in New Bern in one. He's in Bath in a couple of them. So that your website was very well done. I really appreciated that.
Well, I appreciate that. It was fun. There's even a map there that you can find that you can sort of figure out where the real life places are and the places that I've imagined.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to getting it, and it sounds like a good summertime read. If you're going down to the beach and you're looking for something to read as you're sitting under the umbrella, grab Mountain Folk, and you can find more about it at mountainfolkbook.com. Thank you, John. Have a great weekend. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you much.
You bet. Stay with us. More news and views coming up.
Break the chain. Eat local. Tiebreakers.
Hey, this is Hank Hinton back here at Full Service Flooring in Winterville. I'm here today with Corey Little, who's the operations manager here at Full Service Flooring. Corey's been here 6 months, but you've been in construction a long time. Tell us about what you do here at Full Service Flooring.
Yeah, I got over here about 6 months ago. I've been in construction for, like I said, a little over 20 years, and I've known Tim for a long time now, and he's brought me over here to see what new kind of things I can bring to the store and to our customers. And I'm in charge of scheduling, and I don't know what else. I'm in charge of everything. It seems like we work together as a team and try to pull it all together. I might do a measure one day and do a commercial floor the next day, but we just kind of all work together and pull it all together at one time.
So what's new in flooring? What is the hot new thing?
The hot new thing is LVP or LVT, depending on what you're looking for, which look you're looking for. It's a waterproof product. It's absolutely fantastic. You can't really beat it.
A lot cheaper than hardwoods?
It is definitely a cost-effective alternative to hardwoods, yes, sir.
So, Corey, how is business right now?
And business is good. Despite the pandemic, we're still seeing a lot of new customers in the store, and we get an opportunity to introduce our products in a lot of different situations right now.
Corey, you've got a lot of experience in the construction industry. How is that helping you here with people, helping people with flooring here at Full Service Flooring?
Sure. I try to take the experiences that I've gained over my time in construction to help apply that to the flooring, whether it be with what the structure is made out of, the subfloor that we're going over top of, or maybe even just how it coordinates with your kitchen cabinets in construction or in your bathroom and how the tub and everything all ties together.
And a customer can just come here and see you anytime?
Absolutely. We're here 6 days a week, and we just love to see a new customer in here anytime. They can always call us and schedule something with us so we can make sure we have our time allotted for them.
Corey, thank you so much. That's Corey Little here at Full Service Flooring. Come see these guys. They're on Tilco Drive in Winterville, 756-9308 and fullserviceflooring.com.
In North Carolina, we get up before the sun rises and stay up into the wee hours of the night. We believe in working hard and playing harder. Behind every meal, there's a farmer, and behind every farmer, there's got to be NC, the official state identity program for North Carolina agricultural products. Look for the Got to Be NC logo wherever you shop or eat, and you'll know you're getting a quality product grown, raised, caught, or made in North Carolina.
This 4th of July will begin our summer of freedom. We get back to doing the things we love, like spending trillions and trillions of dollars and getting together with family and friends. We'll celebrate our independence from this virus and from the borders.
I said I would go to the border, but why bother? It's the summer of freedom.
Be prepared.
We'll build back better, or for worse.
With Talk 96.3 and 103.7. Now back to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht and Benny Hardy.
Benny is off today. He'll be back on Monday. Megan Rapinoe, the U.S. soccer star for women. She's also apparently the new face of Victoria's Secret. I'm not trying, Victoria's Secrets, I'm not sure, guys, that you've got a good marketing plan. I'm just saying, Megan Rapinoe and apparently the Victoria's Secret Angels are going to be a little heftier. I don't get it. I don't get your marketing plan. Anyway, that's fine. I rarely go there anyway. I don't think I've ever been there, but I'm just saying, it's just an interesting marketing plan. Anyway, I digress. Megan Rapinoe, she is now in trouble for a tweet that she sent out May 19th, 2011, more than 10 years ago. And they are now saying she is racist because she tweeted to a friend under her picture. This friend sent her a picture, and the tweet she sent back was, "You look Asian with those closed eyes." And now people are accusing her of being a racist. Look, I'm not a Megan Rapinoe fan, but give it a break, people. Give it a break. I mean, is it racist to say that person has Asian-looking eyes? Is that a racist statement? I mean, don't most Asians have similar eyes as compared to other ethnicities? And how is that racist? Nobody says they're ugly eyes or poor eyes or I'm glad I don't have those eyes. They just said you look like an Asian. Who gives a rip? Man, the sensitivity stuff is... Let it go. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot issued a declaration yesterday decrying systemic racism as a public health crisis and announcing that the city would divert $10 million in grants from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, meant to be used to address the COVID-19 pandemic to establish healthy Chicago equity zones. What the heck does that mean? And quite frankly, if you're with the CDC, go ask for your money back. A $10 million grant to deal with COVID, and she's going to, on her own, I don't know how she has the authority to do this. On her own, she's going to divert it to healthy Chicago equity zones. Quote, at almost every point in our city's history, sadly, racism is taking a devastating toll on the health and well-being of our residents of color, and particularly those who are black. Lightfoot said at a press conference on Thursday, without formally acknowledging this history and reality and the continuing impact of that infamous legacy, looking at the root causes of today's challenges, we will never be able to move forward as a city and fully provide our communities with the resources that we need to live happy, vibrant, and fulfilled lives. What the heck does that mean? I mean, she and Biden ought to get together and we'd have no idea what either one of them are talking about. Lightfoot noted that not even overt racism that poses a significant health crisis, but rather the effects of systemic racism, which she said has a deadly impact on physical and mental well-being. Quote, when we think about racism, many of us think about it in visible and audible forms, but the reality is this insidious nature of systemic racism has other impacts that are every bit as deep and harmful, but often ones that we can't see, like the impacts on the psyche and other impacts on our bodies that are just and if not more deadly, Lightfoot said. My friends, this is a bunch of gobbly-gooey horse manure. And listen, I guarantee you this. Somebody needs to go up there and track this $10 million. When you have a liberal that on their own decides they're going to divert $10 million for something that they think is a more worthy issue, I guarantee you that a large portion of that $10 million will end up in the pockets of a select few. And you know exactly what I'm saying. And this other crap, I'm sorry, systemic racism. Systemic, the word systemic means complete, universal, total, general. You might say systemic racism, they would say, is a system of racism. And as I've said this before, I'll say it again. Yes, there is a system of racism in our society. And its name, CRT, critical race theory. And the racists are those who are pointing the finger at the white population and saying with no proof, no evidence, you're bad, you're a problem, all of you are guilty, and therefore you must pay. That is the only systemic racism that we have right now. Interestingly, it's not blacks that are saying this. It's not a racial issue in that sense. It's an ideology issue. It is liberals. It is progressives. Some are black. Most are white. It's Marxist ideology. Lightfoot claimed in her speech that the city's efforts to battle the COVID-19 epidemic laid bare the difference in how communities of color weather a health crisis. On average, blacks in the city lived 71.4 years, while non-blacks lived 80.6 years. That gap is 9.2 years. Yes, but A, how have you concluded that is a racist issue? And by the way, go look at the stats. You will find that black women, on average, live longer than white men. So are we going to make that a racist issue? Again, I just said it. I'll say it again. This is not a race issue. This is an ideology issue. It's progressives that have bought into critical race theory. And whether you're black or whether you're white or whether you're Native American or whether you're Asian, whatever your ethnicity. And look, there's one race. It's called the human race. We've got numerous ethnicities, but there's one race. An Illinois father by the name of Ty Smith knows that. This is cut two, Clark. Ty Smith said this last night at an Illinois Board of Education meeting. He got it right.
We're going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other. That's pretty much I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, time out, because I only got 5 minutes now, 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees, no mom, no dad in the house, worked my way through college, sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You going to tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious? Not one white person ever came to me and say, well, son, you're never going to be able to get nowhere because you know the black people. But guess what? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't going to be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't going to let you get no, oh, you know you're not going to be able to do it here because you know, the white man going to keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I worked for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory? This the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to now. I can't believe we even talking about this right now. The last thing I'm going to say right here is something that's crazy. Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they letting this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. If y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense, that's exactly what's about to happen. Lastly, we are talking about our kids. We are talking about our children. What's so sickening about me, I love the Discovery Channel. You will see that on the Discovery Channel, animals will put their lives on the line to protect their children from danger. Nobody want to get to the heart of the matter, get to the meat of the matter, get to the moral of the story. When it all comes down to it, the person that's going to be suffering from this, the one's going to be hurt from this, is the kids. 10 years from now, if this stuff goes on, whose fault is it going to be?
Ty Smith had it right. He goes on, and he had that board spellbound. African American, black doctor, 2 medical degrees, and he said, you know what? Quit. In essence, quit being the victim. Quit being the victim. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Your trade has never been worth more. Get paid to trade at Greenville Toyota. Sell us your old car for cash, up to 125% of book value. Or trade up to Camry, just $189 a month. Get paid to trade. Now at Greenville Toyota.
Anything could happen ever since I met you.
Introducing Pepsi Mango.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
My name is Dr. Neeti Armistead, Chief Medical Officer for Vidant Health. The following simple steps will help keep you and your community safe. Stay home as much as possible, wear a mask when out in public, avoid large gatherings, practice social distancing, and wash hands often. It's also important not to delay needed care. Vidant has taken important steps to provide you and your family with a safe environment. Learn more about COVID-19 and Vidant's response. Call 252-847-8000 or visit vidanthealth.com/COVID-19.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
This one's for everyone who spends the amount of time it would take to watch a movie, agreeing on which movie to watch. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
Get paid to trade at Greenville Toyota. We'll pay you up to 125% of book value, even if you don't buy from us. Or trade up to Corolla, just $159 a month. Don't settle for less. Get more for your trade. Now at Greenville Toyota.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
Back to news and views. Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. There is an interesting story out of Georgia. The Fulton County Election Board is in a mess. A contractor hired by the Georgia Secretary of State, Raffensperger, to monitor election counting in Fulton County, wrote this back right after the election in November. It's just now come out. And what's interesting about this is Raffensperger came out after the election, after there was some controversy, after there were accusations, after Donald Trump said, hey, we've got issues down here, and Rassenberger came out, oh, no, it was a great election. There's no issues. This is picture perfect. No problems at all. No. According to this 29-page memo, which came out back in November, there was massive election integrity failures. There was all kinds of mismanagement that he witnessed. He actually, and this is documented, some of the people that were hired by a firm to help count the ballots and process the ballots, one of the individuals said to another one of the individuals from this temp service, said the name of the temp service was Happy Faces. He basically came in and said, I plan to blankety blank 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 things up, and you can fill in the blanks. There were a number of ballots that came in that were counted multiple times. The security of the ballots was highly, highly questionable. They weren't sealed. They were very loose with security. And again, remember, this is primarily Fulton County, but that's Atlanta. And remember that Joe Biden only won Georgia by 12,000 votes. Now, and what did we hear right after the election? Oh, well, there might have been some small little issues here and there, but nothing that would change the outcome of the election, really. We haven't heard the end of this, and we're still waiting on Maricopa County in Arizona for their audits. Hey, listen, have a great weekend. The weather's going to be good. Our thanks again to John Hood. Go to mountainfolkbook.com if you want to know more about his new novel. And we'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right.
Why do the chicken coops only have 2 doors? Because if they
In North Carolina, we get up before the sun rises and stay up into the wee hours of the night. We believe in working hard and playing harder. Behind every meal, there's a farmer, and behind every farmer, there's got to be NC, the official state identity program for North Carolina agricultural products. Look for the Got to Be NC logo wherever you shop or eat, and you'll know you're getting a quality product grown, raised, caught, or made in North Carolina.
We're on location at Fabric and Home Furnishings, and I'm back with my friend Lisa Pendry. And Lisa's been telling me about all the great renovations that have been going on here in the store, and I've been looking around, and it looks fantastic. Tell us what you've done here.
Well, we've knocked some walls down, we've painted, we've added some new vendors, lots of new exciting things going on. So we're making room for everybody to get what they need to transform their homes.
Looks fantastic in here. Last time we talked, you were saying that you were able to deliver a lot faster than most other furniture stores. Is that still the case?
It is. It's changed a little bit, but we're still looking at around 8 to 10 week delivery, and we do sell our floor samples right off the floor.
All right, we always say that Fabric and Home Furnishings is more than just a fabric store, so tell us what the more is all about. What when people come in, what should they expect?
Well, we love to get to know our customers. I have the best crew I've ever had, and everybody on my team is an interior designer. So we offer in-home design service, which we always have, but now they can each come out to your home after they work with you in here, figure out what's going on in your residence or your commercial property to pull it together and help you make everything beautiful.
You got great folks here.
I do.
I can tell you, I haven't gotten to know them. It's like a family when you come in here, and everybody gets along well, and you can tell that these guys and gals really know what they're talking about when it comes to interior design.
They do, and that's really what makes us different. We offer complete in-home design service. We don't charge a by-the-hour fee. It's a flat one-time fee. We work with you in here, in your home, in your business, and help pull everything together.
All right, it's more than just a fabric store. Fabric and Home Furnishings in Arlington Village. Come see this lady. She's fantastic. Fabric and Home Furnishings. Come see the renovations here in Arlington Village. And thank you for the visit today.
Thank you, Henry.
All right, you got to come see what they've done in the store here on Arlington Boulevard in Arlington Village.